الحمد لله رب العالمين والعاقبة للمتقين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين سيدنا محمد النبي العالمين الذي اسمه مكتوب في الإنجيل والتوراة. أما بعد، فقد قال الله تعالى في كتابه العزيز بعد أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم رجال صدقوا ما عاهدوا الله عليه فمنهم من قضى نحبه ومنهم من ينتظر وما بدلوا تبديلا. وقال تعالى في مقام آخر محمد رسول الله والذين معه أشداء على الكفار رحماء بينهم تراهم ركعا سجدا يبتغون فضلا من الله ورضوانا. وقال النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم أصحابي كالنجوم بأيهم اقتديتم اهتديتم، أو كما قال النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم. My dear brothers, sisters, elders and youngsters, it is without a fraction of a doubt that regardless of where you look in the world and which classroom you look at in this world, regardless of the methodology of the institution, regardless of the type of students in that university, regardless of what type of school it is, regardless of where in the world it is, every single classroom will have two types of students. They will have two types of students. There will be a type of students who prosper, who succeed, who are honor roll students, who are appreciated and who are recognized by the world and for those that come after them. And there's always a second type of student. There's always a second group of students that struggle to make it, that hardly pass their exams, that fail when they stagger their way forward, regardless of how great the professors are, regardless of which institution they may be studying in. There will always be both of these types of students. That is the nature of a classroom. That is the nature of an institution. My dear brothers and sisters, there is only one classroom, one institution, since the start of time till the day of judgment, where every single student was an honor roll student. Every single student was prosperous. Every single student was a guiding light. Every single student was someone to be remembered. And this was the classroom of the Prophet ﷺ. Classrooms are great. Institutions are great. Not because of their inclusivity, but because of their exclusivity. Harvard is not Harvard because of who they let in. They're Harvard because of who they leave out. This classroom was not great because there was one group of youngsters or adults or brothers or sisters. It was great despite its inclusivity. It was great despite the youth that were within it. It was great despite the fact that there was so much diversity. It was great despite the fact that there were no two people who were exactly the same, who had the same experiences, who had the same education, who had the same background. Great systems are built because there's consistent people within the system, that they have a similar background. They're very similar in their skill sets. They're very similar in their abilities. And that similarity of theirs, we believe, creates a very consistent outcome in production that makes a great corporation, that creates a great organization. But this system was built not to benefit from their people. It was built to benefit the people. Every system in this world, the greatness and the relevance of it depends upon the people that populate it. You remove the students that go to universities and the great professors that teach within those universities, you have no university. Because the university is a beneficiary of the students. You remove the employees that work in those Fortune 500 companies, they remain not a Fortune 500 company because they are the beneficiaries of their employees. The only system in this world which is not a beneficiary of its people is a system of deen. لو أن أولكم وآخركم وجنكم وإنسكم كانوا أتقى على قلب رجل واحد ما زاد ذلك في ملك شيئا. If every single one of you, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in Hadith Qudsi, if every single one of you, humans, jinn, from the beginning of time till the end of time, became as pious as Abu Bakr radiyallahu anhu, it would not increase in my honor one bit. Allah is Allah. Deen is deen. ألا إن الدين عند الله الإسلام. ألا إن كلمة الله هي العليا. This classroom was great despite its differences. Despite every single thing that wasn't present that makes our systems unique and special. Despite every single concept that we look for in our organizations. Who would look for a Bilal to be a part of their shura? Who will look for a Khabbab to be a part of their family? Who will look for a Suhaib al-Rumi to be a part of their system? Who will look for these youngsters? Who would want to migrate to a community where the people that are inviting him are youngsters like Sa'd ibn Mu'adh and As'ad ibn Zurara, less than 16, 17 years old, and they are the founders of the migration of the Prophet ﷺ. Who would allow these people to make such an impact? The system benefited them. The system wasn't the beneficiary. The moment we think deen benefits from what we are doing, we have lost the concept of what deen is. We are the beneficiaries. Who was Umar before Islam and who is he after Islam? Where his aunt was saying to him, there was a time that I remember that you were unable to take care of a herd of sheep. And today Allah has made you the ruler of 1/3 of the world. Did his lineage change? Did his skill set change? Did his abilities change? He remains the same individual. What changed is that he was given a sense of value from deen. Deen gave him value. Youngsters believe that the more deen that comes into our life, our value depreciates. We become less acceptable. We become less relevant. One of the most overrated terminologies in the world is being relevant. Because there's no one that is relevant to someone else's definition of what a norm is. Everyone is a stranger to someone else's definition of what a norm is. Relevance is subjective. So being a stranger is also subjective. What changed was that he was given deen. This was a classroom that we want to implement into our families. This classroom was great based on two components. It was the most inclusive community when it came to where people came from. When it came to ethnicities and backgrounds, when it came to cultures, when it came to different denominations, it was the most inclusive system. But let us not be in a delusion or be confused. It was the most exclusive system when it came to ideals and values. The greatness of our classroom was based on inclusivity of how people looked, not what they believed in. Let us not think that inclusivity is a way and a form of widening the gap of compromise within our religion. Inclusivity is a form of bringing people in, not allowing us to leave. Subtraction is never going to be addition. There's no virtue in substitution. There's virtue in addition. There's no virtue in leaving an act of goodness to add another act of goodness. The child says to the mother, I can serve you at night, but I won't pray Fajr. That's not virtuous. Virtue is I'll serve you at night and I'll still pray Fajr in the masjid. Well, the Prophet ﷺ one day, he noticed that for 3 days in a row, a companion missed Fajr Salat in the masjid. And he went knocking on their door. Imam Salah was speaking about this just earlier. They would go knocking on doors. I come from a background where my father was in a university in King Edward College in Pakistan. Not a single member of his family believed in the concept of akhirah. Forget pray salat. In the army in Pakistan, not knowing what religion was, as a student in the dormitories, the people of the work of da'wah and tabligh came knocking on his dorms. And he changed his life and he came to this country. And him and my mother made a decision. We have 5 children. All 5 of them will serve the deen of Allah. Do not think by serving deen benefits. We benefit. And do not think that it depreciates our value. It adds value to us. The moment we understand that something adds value to our presence, we will never let it go. We believe wealth adds value. No one will leave money. We believe affiliations add value. In today's time, a person is only as honorable as their affiliations. How weak is that? You remove the title before their names, no one respects them anymore. You take their badge away that they work in a hospital, they don't make a difference anymore. Honor is found in affiliations. The moment we find that there's value in something, we'll never leave it. People find value in having specific phones. They'll do anything for it. People find value in expressing a certain way of their life that they wish to live. They're not even living it, but they're just showing it because it brings them value. They'll never leave it. Sahabas never left deen because they believed that it was not a source of value, it was the only source of value. The moment it's an and, we've already lost the game. It's the only source of value. It's the only source of growth for our children. We ask our children all the time, how did you do in school? As mothers and fathers, we ask our children, what do you want to become when you grow older? How many times have we asked them, will you pray Fajr in the masjid tomorrow? I'll go with you, I'll take you. Or set a standard in the house that the line of questioning changes. A community will never change until the line of questioning changes. The line of questioning for Sahabas changed. The line of questioning used to be how something could benefit my dunya. And the line of questioning became how could something benefit my akhirah. Ibn Qayyim rahimahullah says, if you were to derive the mentality of Sahabas from the Quran, mentality of Sahaba, people gain millions of dollars writing books on mentality. The mentality in a mindset of a billionaire, the mindset of an entrepreneur, and they write so many random things in there. What would be the mindset of Sahabas? He said, if we were to derive the mindset of Sahabas, we would see that they were people, man arad al-akhirah. They had the mentality of akhirah in every moment of their life. Every moment of their life, they were fixated upon the akhirah. And that can only happen to a person if you zoom out for a moment and stop living a life which is focused and so zoomed in that nothing in the periphery and nothing around you makes a difference anymore. Because we're so laser focused on that which will only remain for a little while. Will only stay for some time. This classroom was great because it was very exclusive on two components. Their point of reference became two things, and I'll end with these two things. Number one, what can I do in my life that when I leave, I earn the pleasure of Allah? That was the first thing. So every single day and everything they did, this was their line of questioning. Will this make Allah happy or not? It's a very simple question. It's not about halal and haram anymore. Will this make my Allah happy? Who's given me everything He's given me. Who's allowed me to have children. وَجَعَلْهُ رَبِّي رَضِيًّا. A child is only worth having when they become a source of pleasure for Allah. Or else Zakaria alayhi salam would have asked for a different dua. He asked, Allah, give me a child that earns your pleasure. Their line of questioning became, number one, does this make Allah happy? So everything changed. Number two, what can I do while living in this world to bring ease and comfort to the Prophet ﷺ? And this became the goal and the ambition of their life. What they lost mattered less, because what they gained was very clear. We can only leave something because the gain is very clear. And because akhirah is still so blurry to us, leaving dunya becomes so difficult. The blurriness of akhirah will only be removed if the reality of it settles in our heart. And this is real. This will not go away. Rather, it's only coming closer. This is what made an exclusive community. Based on ideals, based on values. And these values changed the world. A community that the Persians and the Romans would say that these are people not worth ruling became the rulers of the world. Because their second component, that we will do whatever it takes to make the Prophet happy. Rama Iqbal, he has a beautiful poem. He says, Ki Muhammad se wafa tune, to hum tere hain. Ye jahan cheez hai kya, loh wa qalam tere hain. We attach our loyalties to the Prophet ﷺ. Everyone will attach their loyalties to us. We attach our love to Allah. Everyone's love will become ours. Man kana akbaru hammihi hammul akhirah. Whosoever has the biggest concern of their life, the concern of akhirah, kafahu Allahu hammahu fid dunya wal akhirah. Allah will suffice for them in all of their concerns of this world. Because their concern is something much bigger. The concern is the akhirah. The person that wants to win a game isn't too focused about losing a quarter. They're worried about winning the game. The person that wants to win at life isn't too focused on getting the small L's. They're focused on getting the large W, which is akhirah, which is the rida of Allah. When we earn Allah's love, everyone's love becomes ours. And the Prophet ﷺ said in a beautiful narration, إِذَا أَحَبَّ اللَّهُ عَبْدًا نَادَى جِبْرِيلٌ. When Allah loves someone, He calls Jibreel. He says, Ya Jibreel, إِنِّي أُحِبُّ فُلَانِ ابْنِ فُلَانِ فَأَحِبُّهُ. Oh Jibreel, I love this person. So you must love this person. In this world, if the CEO likes you, the manager has no choice. That's the way of life. The secretary that sits in the front desk, he or she has no choice because the CEO loves you. That's how the world works. When Allah loves us, angels have no choice. They also love us. And then the announcement is made to all the angels in the heavens that love this person. حَتَّى يَأْتِ الْقُبُولَ فِي الْأَرْضِ, until the love and the acceptance of this person enters into the heart of the community. My son doesn't listen to me, not because I haven't bought him enough things. My son doesn't listen to me because my relationship with Allah is not complete. My spouse isn't always displeased with me because of the lack of finances or presents I bring in the house. My spouse perhaps is displeased because of my fajr is compromised. Sufyan al-Thawri rahimahullah would say, إِنِّي أَرَى أَثَرَ ذَنْبِي فِي زَوْجَتِي وَدَابَتِي. He would say that I would see the ill effect of a sin that I commit in the way that my spouse would open the door for me when I would come back home from work. I could tell that this is because of a sin that I committed. And then he would say to her, to his wife or his mother or husband or father, regardless of what the relationship is, أَمْهِلْنِي, give me a few minutes so I can pray 2 raka'ah to Allah. And say, well, Allah, whatever is between you and me is between you and me. Don't let it come in between us. حَتَّى يَأْتِ الْقُبُولَ فِي الْأَرْضِ. Acceptance of people that we love is contingent upon the love of Allah in our heart. That is the source. They loved the Prophet, so people fell in love with him. They loved the Prophet, so we fell in love with him. We don't love them because of their names. We love them because of what they did for our Prophet. And they love us because of what we do for our Prophet. It's a reciprocal relationship. The more we do, the more beloved we become to them. They made a decision. They made a very clear decision that we will do whatever it takes to make Allah happy, and number 2, to see the Prophet smile. Now I'll mention 2 stories that validates these claims. All the stories of Sahabas you open, in every one of them you find someone sacrificing for the Prophet of Allah. In the Battle of Uhud, when the rumor had spread the Prophet had become shaheed, and as the Sahabas are looking for him, Talha ibn Ubaidullah sees him in the midst of the battle, where the non-believers have encircled him, and their arrows pointed towards him, ready to assassinate him. And he jumps in front of the Prophet ﷺ, and he takes his hand and he places it in front of all the oncoming arrows. All the incoming arrows pierce his hand, and his hand becomes paralyzed. When Abu Bakr became Khalifa radiallahu anhu, Talha ibn Ubaidullah came and he did bay'ah with his left hand. You're supposed to do bay'ah, pledge allegiance with your right hand. He came with his left hand. And one of those youngsters that think that they're the new person on the block, never forget about the elders. Youngsters believe that because we're making the effort, there's change. Wallahi, we're making the effort every single day of our life, as much as we are, but the moment we lose the du'as of our parents, nothing takes place. The du'as of teachers and elders. What is this definition of balance that has become a trendy topic that I'll do when I feel like there's a balance in the relationship? There was no such thing as balance in relationships, and hence relationships thrived. Because everyone was trying to outdo the other person. Everyone was trying to do more than the other person. The father for the son for the father, the mother for the daughter for the sibling. It was never a situation of balance. It was always, how can I do more? Nonetheless, when he came with his left hand, one of these youngsters said, Ammu, come with your right hand. And Abu Bakr looked at him as if he was going to smack him. Don't you know this man's hand became shaheed, protecting the Prophet ﷺ. On that day when Talha comes with his hand, with arrows pierced on his hand, when Mus'ab comes with his entire body full of blood, when Ja'far al-Tayyar comes with his hands cut off, when Zayd ibn Dathina radiyallahu anhu, who was a companion, who was caught by the mushriks of Mecca and held as a hostage and tied by ropes on a tree, and 70 archers pointing their arrows and spears towards him. And as they're looking towards him, Abu Sufyan looks at him and he says, هَذَا سِرِّي بَيْنِي وَبَيْنَكَ. This is a secret between you and me and a few of us that are here. And we only know of this narration because he became Muslim. He says, Wallahi anshuduk. أما تحب أنت أن محمدا قد تكون في مكانك وأنت مع أهلك. Would you not want that Muhammad was standing in your place and you were enjoying with your family? Just between you and me. No one's going to find out. I want to know the reality behind this persona as they would think you have created. Impact can never be created through a persona. People don't change because of personas. People change because of impact. And impact is not contingent upon resources. How Imam Siraj is speaking about few people. Impact isn't relevant to resources. قَلِيلٌ مِّنْ عِبَادِيَ الشُّكُورِ. Impact is relevant to having something that you rely on. And that reliance helps you move forward. So he looks at this man, Abu Sufyan, dead in his eyes, staring at death as these arrows and archers are ready to pierce his body. And he says to him, smiling at him, "You're such a fool. Wallahi, ma raditu anna Muhammadan qad shakahu shawka wa ana ma'a ahli jalisatun wa dhahika." He said, Wallahi, I would not be happy or pleased if the Prophet ﷺ was touched by a thorn and I was laughing and sitting with my family. I would not be okay with that. I wouldn't be okay with it. And Suhaib and Abu Sufyan raises his hands and the archers pierce his body. Handala comes becoming shaheed. Mus'ab comes as a shaheed. Abu Bakr comes with his entire wealth. Abu Talha ibn Ubaidullah comes with his hand. What do we come with? What do we have to show to the Prophet on that day? That we're also a part of this community. That you said that I wish to meet my brothers and sisters. And no one likes to fall short of someone's expectations. Especially those that we love. We don't like to fall short of our parents' expectations because we love them. The Prophet's expectations of us is that the inclusivity clause will remain based on where people come from. The exclusivity clause will be the only source of progress. That we're exclusive based on our ideals and values, which is A, will this make Allah happy? B, will this bring a smile to the Prophet's face? And when we meet him on the Day of Judgment, will he be happy with us? Someone came and asked a great scholar, as narrated by Imam Suyuti rahimahullah, that when will be the first time that I will truly be able to experience comfort and happiness and joy? In one narration he says, إِذَا رَأَيْتَ تَبَسَّمَ النَّبِيَّ إِلَيْكَ. That when you see the Prophet smiling at you. Another narration he says, أَوَّلُ قَدَمٍ فِي الْجَنَّةِ. The first step you take into Jannah. So my dear friends, brothers and sisters, we leave this conference with pain in our heart. Pain not because something is wrong physically. Pain because how many more people will benefit from this deen if we simply give it to them? How many more people will enjoy the experience of salat if they knew how to pray it? How many more people would enjoy becoming Muslim if they knew we were Muslim? In the States, they did a survey in 2017 and it said 85% of Americans have never met a Muslim in their life. I know census and surveys are so off, but this one is really off. 85% of Americans think that they haven't met a Muslim. But the person serving them at Walmart is probably a Muslim. The salesman at GM is probably a Muslim. The physician that serves them in the hospital is probably Muslim. But they haven't seen the connection because we always refer to the goodness that we have to other things other than deen. We say that we're physicians because our parents put us into med school. We say that we're successful because of our education. And whenever we struggle, why don't you have a big house? Because interest is haram. Why aren't you in a higher position at work? Because networking with alcohol is haram. Everything negative refers back to deen. Everything positive refers back to us and everything else. How will people look at deen in a positive light when we only refer to it in a negative light? Something can only be honorable because the people that own it honor it themselves. May Allah make us amongst those people that when we leave this world, we are raised with those individuals that we wish to be raised with. من النبيين والصديقين والشهداء والصالحين. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, يَوْمَ نَدْعُ كُلَّ أُنَاسٍ بِإِمَامِهِ. That on that day, you will be raised with your imam. Who is your imam? The person that you chose to want to live your life like. Imam Qurtubi rahimahullah narrates Or rather, Ibn Kathir rahimahullah narrates a narration which I'm extremely fond of, and I'll leave with this narration. On that day, under the ayah of يَوْمَ إِذٍ يَصْدُرُ النَّاسُ أَشْتَاتًا, the people will be raised in groups with their leaders. He says, on that day, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, وَنَادَى مُنَادِي, an announcer will call out and say, أَيْنَ الصِّدِّيقُ أَيْنَ الصِّدِّيقُ, where is the truthful one? And as the entirety of humanity is just standing there waiting for Allah to begin this moment of hisab, when the announcer says, أَيْنَ الصِّدِّيقُ, no one moves except for who? Who moves? Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu. Imagine in the sea of people, we get excited when someone calls us on stage in our graduation. Imagine in the sea of billions of people, Abu Bakr being recognized as a Siddiq. And then the announcer says, وَأَيْنَ الصَّادِقُونَ الَّذِينَ صَدَقُوا مَا عَاهَدُوا اللَّهَ عَلَيْهِ, where are those who were also truthful to the covenant that they made with Allah? People like you and I will stand up. Imagine the captain of your team being Abu Bakr. You know you're not going to Jahannam, because Abu Bakr is your leader. Then the announcer will say, وَأَيْنَ الْفَارُوقُ, where is the individual, the personality that became the criterion between truth and falsehood? No one will dare to move, because everyone knows who Faruq is. And Umar will come forth. And then the announcer will say, وَأَيْنَ الَّذِينَ يُفَرِّقُونَ بَيْنَ الْحَقِّ وَالْبَاطِلِ, where are those who stood the test of time and became a criterion between truth and falsehood in their own communities? People like you and I will stand up. That we didn't simply want to assimilate because it was cool. We wish to assimilate because it brought impact. We wish to assimilate because it allowed them to see the goodness that we possess, not to be impressed by their goodness. My father would always tell us as kids, you can never be the da'i in the mad'u. You can never be the caller and the one being called. You have to choose. Am I the inviter or am I the invitee? And the inviter always has the upper hand, because he's the da'i. He has something that he believes the other person doesn't have. And now just the psychology of that will make that person want it. And then the announcer will say, وَأَيْنَ صَاحِبُ الْحَيَاءِ وَالْجُودِ وَالْكَرَمِ, where is the possessor of modesty, generosity, kindness? In the sea of billions of people, Uthman radiallahu anhu will stand up. And then the announcer will say, where are those in the midst of immodesty, in the midst of difficulty, in the fitan of our times, they chose to remain modest? Not simply with their clothing, how they talk to their parents. How can a person claim they have good character if the Tim Hortons lady or brother likes them, but their parents don't like them? It's not good character. That's called compensating, because you know you're losing somewhere else. It's compensated. Then the announcer will say, وَأَيْنَ صَاحِبُ الشُّجَاعَةِ, where is the most brave and intelligent one? The combination, Imam Suyuti says, the combination of bravery and intelligence, brawn and brain, was Ali radiallahu anhu. And Ali will stand up. The announcer will say, where are all of those that are brave in front of the difficulties of this world? The announcer will say, where is the leader of the youngsters of Jannah? And Hassan and Hussein will stand up. And then the announcer will say, where are those youngsters who passed away as youngsters holding on to their deen? And youngsters will stand up behind him. The announcer will say, where is the leader of the women of Jannah? And Fatima and Maryam and Asiya and Khadija will stand. And our sisters will stand with them, because the announcer will say, where are the leaders of the women of this ummah? So my dear friends, just because we weren't there doesn't mean that we can't make it. Just because we weren't present doesn't mean that we will never be present. Just because we weren't there at that time doesn't mean that we won't be there later. We believe in وَالسَّابِقُونَ السَّابِقُونَ أُولَٰئِكَ الْمُقَرَّبُونَ. As Hassan al-Basri rahimahullah says, in every generation there will come a people who will be the front runners, the holders of deen, and they will be attached to the sabiqun of the Sahabas. The wealthy ones who were generous will be attached to Abdul Rahman ibn Auf, and so on and so forth. And this discussion can continue, but we end by saying, we weren't there, but we can believe that if we continue struggling for this deen, we will definitely be there. And the value that we possess is contingent upon the value of deen we have in our life. The value that our children will have for deen is based upon how much we encourage them and create an environment that allows them to fall in love with deen. Let us not be delusional that our children will be Muslim because we're Muslim. You guys live in Canada, we live in America. There's a city, Laklabish, Edmonton. There were Muslims in the 1800s. The graves have Muslim names on it, but the children are not Muslim. Right next to us. Right next to us. It's not Spain. It's not Pakistan. It's our own cities. So if we believe that deen was inherited, then we are delusional. Deen is given. It's a gift. And the gift can only be given to someone because the person themselves value it, and the person they're giving it to also starts to value it. May Allah make us amongst those people. Wa akhir da'wana alhamdulillah rabbil alamin. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.